Let me guess, you love elopement photography, but talking about money, pricing, charging more, it makes you squirm. Today, I'm calling out the money mindset blocks that are sabotaging your business and showing you why charging more is actually the most generous thing you can do for your clients. Welcome to Stoked, the podcast that helps adventure elopement photographers hit six figures and beyond in their businesses without hustling on social media. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become an elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on helping you do the same. Are you ready to start booking out your calendar with dream couples in breathtaking locations and feeling genuinely stoked about your elopement photography business, life, and bank account? Then let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Megan McPhail.
And your co-host, Todd Reedy.
And if you've ever thought that I can't charge that much, or there's no way people will pay these prices, or if you've ever felt weird about talking money with your clients, then this episode is for you, because the truth is your mindset around money is either improving your business or sabotaging it. So let's dig into some of the most common limiting beliefs about money and how they might be showing up in your business and how you can actually reframe these beliefs so that you can grow and you can serve your clients better by charging more. So after coaching photographers for years, we have uncovered a bunch of limiting beliefs that we have about money. So here's a few of them, and you're probably going to relate to several of these, if not all of them. So the first one is that money is evil. And, if you want money, you're bad and you're greedy. And then people also think if they want to make good money, that means that they have to work a lot harder or hustle harder, and that more money is just going to equal more problems, more work. And people are afraid of that. People also think that eloping couples won't pay higher prices. And I think that's from experience, because people hear all the time, like, oh, you're out of my budget, or, we're going with a cheaper photographer, or in Facebook groups, they see couples posting where it's like, I'm looking for a photographer that doesn't charge an arm and a leg, and photographers are so expensive and stuff like that. And people are going to criticize your prices, even if you're only charging like $500. Like, there's always going to be people who are loud and obnoxious about how they think you're charging too much. And like the people who think you're charging appropriately, they're not going to go out of their way to tell you that.
Or to tell you that, oh, we should just give you more money because your work is worth it.
Yeah. No one's going to say, hey, you should be charging more, except maybe for me.
Well, and another part of that is, there's nothing wrong with people wanting to pay less for photography, right? So like, we just all value different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are photographers out there that will charge less than they're probably worth.
Mm-hmm.
But that probably goes across the board for any service or product out there, right?
Yeah.
We're talking in weddings, there's probably going to be price shoppers and people looking for a deal. In elopements, same thing. For fences, for roads, for houses. Pick your favorite purchase or your service, and people are going to have a wide gambit of values tied to that, and they'll only pay a certain amount as well.
Yeah.
So it's just finding the right people that align with what you want to charge and what you deserve to charge.
Yeah, totally. And I think people get like a really biased view of what couples are willing to pay, because the people who don't value photography and just value a deal are so vocal about it. Another limiting belief is people feel guilty charging more. I think they think, I don't know, they're going to make someone go broke in order to book them, or they feel guilty wanting more money because that kind of goes back to the whole money is bad, money is evil thing, and they feel guilty. Maybe they want to feel affordable to people. But if you think about it, like if I buy a cheapo jacket from Amazon that costs like $30 and I trash it, I don't treat it well, I'm like, oh, it's just $30. But if I buy a jacket and I invest in it and it's like $300, like I'm hanging it up, I'm treating it with respect because I invested in it and I want it to last. So sometimes when you charge more, people are just going to automatically treat you better because they're investing in it versus if it's something where it's not hurting them a little bit in their pocketbook, then they don't value it.
Yeah, and I had heard the example about if someone offered you like a car and it was going to be the only car you ever have for the rest of your life, you're going to like baby that thing to death, right? You're going to keep it cleaned, you're going to keep it serviced, top of the line oil, new tires, the whole thing, right? Because that is your one and only car. And so a similar thing can be extracted to elopement photography, right? Like your couples, hopefully, will only get married or elope one time. And so if we put that in the context of like this single one vehicle that you're ever going to have, like, yeah, you're going to value it and you're going to take care of it. And so similarly with elopement photography, right? You have one elopement, you're going to love the experience regardless of the weather, regardless of, whatever may come up. And you're just going to like be more vested in that service and your relationship with your photographer.
And a lot of people also think that they don't deserve to make that much money doing something that they love. They think that they have to struggle, and if something comes kind of easily to them, then they're like, they don't feel like they should charge that much because it's not hard and difficult. I think, a lot of our culture kind of like talks about how everything in life needs to be a struggle if you're going to make money. And then people find these things that they absolutely love doing, like elopement photography. And it's like, I can't make money doing something that's not actually a huge struggle for me. I actually love it, Or just like that they feel like they don't deserve it, like in a deep down way, like they have self-doubt, maybe low self-esteem and stuff like that. So yeah, they're just like, I don't deserve to make money doing this.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I struggled with. I'm not sure if you did way back when you started, about this idea about like charging a lot for something that comes easy. It may come easy to you because you've been putting in the reps and you've done your education and you've practiced all of these things, right? It's made you feel like it may be easier than what you're charging. But think of all those hours, think of all those bad photos that you took, or like struggles in Lightroom trying to get, something you overexposed in camera and now you're trying to like salvage it to appease like your early clients. But you put in the work to make it easy. If a photographer were to start brand new, it wouldn't be easy, right? So 'cause they're learning all of the different things about their settings and their camera and like positions, posing, all the different things, right? So it's easy because you put in the work to get it to be the point where it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's definitely when you should be getting paid well.
Exactly.
And then another belief people have is that there's too many photographers out there charging less. So that means I can't charge more because people are going to go with the photographers that are charging less. But honestly, what other photographers are doing has nothing to do with you and your business. And there's plenty of couples out there that don't see a photographer charging less as something that they want to pursue. Like they're not looking for a good deal. They're looking for the right photographer. They're looking to invest. They're looking to have the adventure of a lifetime. And so people charging less, they see as less worthy and poorer quality. An example is if you're going out to celebrate and you're going out to dinner and you're looking at the prices of champagne bottles and you're like, I want to get a good one, but I don't know anything about champagne. So you're automatically going to think that the higher priced ones are better than the lower priced ones. That's just the perception of quality. Like higher prices, people perceive as better quality. And so if it wasn't a once in a lifetime thing and we just wanted to get a bottle of champagne on a Sunday morning brunch or something like that, we might go for the cheap ones. But if we really wanted to like invest in our experience of the night and celebrating this once in a lifetime thing, we're going to splurge. It's not what we do all the time, but maybe for that once in a lifetime thing, we're going to splurge, and having higher prices automatically makes you look like your quality is higher. So these money beliefs that money is evil, if I want to make money, I'm going to have to work all the time. People won't pay me these prices. I feel guilty charging more. I don't deserve to make that much money. There's already so many cheap photographers out there. These are just stories we tell ourselves. These are not facts. And the reason why we're telling ourselves these stories, there's many reasons. It could be with how we were raised. We could have some trauma involving money if we were really poor growing up, or if we had a parent that, spent too much money and got into credit card debt or something like that. What we see growing up can really affect us and our ideas about money, and the way people talk about money and wealth and success and pricing, whether it's in your family or your friendships or your colleagues or other photographers. We kind of internalize those ideas about money, especially the whole money is bad, greed is bad thing. And I even remember telling myself when I first started out as a photographer, because I had 6 figures of student loans that I was paying, and I didn't really see a way that I'd ever truly get to the lifestyle that I wanted, because I had made up the story in my head that I'm not going to make that much money as a photographer. And plus $1,800 a month or something like that was going out the door towards my loans. So I'm like, well, I got to settle into being a little bit above broke. And, I don't want to make a lot of money anyway, because those people are all bad people that have a lot of money, and that was just the story I was telling myself.
Some of those thoughts and feelings kind of go unchecked, until you put some conscious effort into thinking about what your beliefs are about money, your traumas or your baggage or wherever that is that has brought you today about money will persist until you actively think and either buy into it and believe it or decide to change. So that's totally up to you.
Yeah, you definitely have to actively change the way you think about money. And one of the things that helped me out a lot is thinking about money as something totally neutral. It's not good, it's not bad. And I like to think of it more as energy and an energy transfer between people. And then how I decide to use that energy is what kind of makes it a positive thing in my life. So getting this energy from people, getting this money from people, I'm able to support local artists. We just went and bought a print from a local artist. I can give back to the environment. I can give back to the community. I can give back to my family. I can donate to charities that really make a difference and align with my values. I can shop at the local farmers market. Oh, we just got some chicks. We just got some backyard chickens, and I want to put that energy that I have into the things that make a difference, into the things that are going to make a difference in other people's lives, that are going to make a difference in my community. So we get to choose how we receive that energy and how we kind of give it back in ways that can truly make a difference.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into it here shortly, but for someone, and we've all been there, maybe you're thinking Megan, how can I think about donating to charity when I can barely pay my bills, or I'm living retainer to retainer, just hoping or praying for the next booking to get me through the next month. But at a more personal scale, you need money to support your life, right? So to be able to photograph the next event, you have to be able to feed yourself and have a house and or some kind of roof over your head and some enjoyment in your life. So it may not be these grandiose, charitable things, but money does have true value in bringing.
It has a positive impact on you.
Yeah.
And it provides security for people. So if you're kind of in a place where you're struggling to pay bills and you're I can't even think about donating extra money to charity yet, just think how great it's going to be when you are able to pay your bills happily and you have an emergency fund set up. And when your kids or your dogs get sick, you can take them to the doctor without worrying about it. Or if your water heater breaks, you can replace it. And it's not this big stressful thing.
Yeah. And I know I've said it before, but I think it's one of my favorite money quotes. And it's, money won't solve all your problems, but it will solve your money problems.
Yeah.
And so at the most basic level, we need money to solve our day-to-day problems.
Yeah, totally. And then that takes away stress and that makes you a better business owner and a
And
better
better
person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what did our accountant tell us once? Because we had a tax bill come in that we weren't expecting, and we're like, oh man, we have to pay this. And he was like, if you have problems that you can solve with money, like they're not really that big of problems.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. So let's stop thinking about money as this bad thing and that you don't deserve it and start welcoming it. And I want to talk about how having these limiting beliefs about money can show up in your business and how it's going to affect you, because I want to show how having more money will not just improve your life, but also improve your whole client experience. So when you struggle with your money mindset, you're going to undercharge 100%. Almost everybody that I start working with is undercharging. And when I'm like, oh, yeah, we're going to help you book 5K elopements, they're like, what? That's terrifying. I can't even think about charging that much. Or $8,000, it makes them feel uncomfortable to even think about that. They just dismiss it out of their mind that that's not even possible for them. And it totally, totally is. And then I also see people not raising their prices even when they're booked out. They're just like terrified to raise their prices, and they just keep taking on more and more stuff, basically overbooking themselves, overextending themselves because they still need the money. Even though they're booked out, they're broke. And that's no good. You'll also feel awkward during sales calls. So, I always recommend elopement photographers get on a Zoom call actually with their couples after they inquire so they can kind of start the whole planning process for their elopement. And if you feel desperate on these calls because your mortgage is due or something and you need to get this booking, or you feel awkward talking about prices and sending prices and you're giving off a weird energy, that can totally affect how you're booking people.
Yeah, I've heard that analogy with like dating. Like if you go on a date and you're feeling, or like,
You're like, marry me.
yeah, this very like frantic or like desperate energy.
Yeah.
It's not going to come across very well
Mm-hmm.
to like your partner or your date or your clients, because they're going to pick up on that. Like, they are, and it's just probably not going to go as well or as smooth as you'd hope with that air of
Desperation.
Yeah, desperation. Thank you.
Yeah. And you got to play it cool a little bit, and you got to get to know each other and see if you're actually a good match before you propose marriage. And it's the same thing on sales calls. If you're like desperate and you're like, you need this booking, and so you just like word vomit all these things about yourself and how great you are, it's like, it's off-putting. So another thing that shows up in our businesses is over delivering and burning out. I think people, and I see this all the time with my coaching students as well, for them to raise their prices, they're like, well, what do I need to add to my packages? Should I add Super 8 video and Polaroids and film and all this stuff? And it's like, no, like you just need to be you. You don't have to add all these extra albums and prints and all that stuff in order to justify these prices. And I think a lot of times too, when we are dealing with clients at lower price points that are booking us because we're a good deal, not because they trust us, they end up nitpicking us and micromanaging us. And so we try to go above and beyond for them, and it never ends up working out in our favor, and we just get burnt out.
Yeah, and we are like proponents of the idea of under promise and over deliver. But when it's like affecting either your physical health, your mental health, and your bank account, like you need to get paid for what the work you're doing and what you should be earning.
Yeah, and I should kind of clarify that the over delivering part is like, a bride who is upset about the wind on her elopement day and wants you to like edit out every little stray hair or something like that, or is just nitpicking about other stuff and wants you to go back and like re-edit the gallery. So they like push your boundaries.
Or stay an extra hour.
Yeah. Or they're like texting you at 9 p.m. on a Friday when you're trying to hang out with your family or something like that. So it's really about kind of like not having boundaries, and then the clients kind of taking advantage of you. And I think we can all think of clients that have done that with us, and it's awful. And as we book more and more higher priced elopements over the years, those clients just weed themselves out. And you end up having clients who are like, if we don't get back to their email in a few days because we're traveling or whatever, like they don't care. And they just trust your experience and they trust you and they're not like codependent on you. And then the other big thing is when you deep down don't believe that you can be successful and that people will pay you what you're worth, then you don't end up doing the work required to actually have a successful business. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like you will always kind of be teetering on the edge of booking yourself out to make some money, but then it's non-ideal clients and you're not happy with how things are going. So you don't actually put in the extra effort and necessary work to level yourself up because inside you don't believe you deserve it. That's a huge part of this because a lot of people have a lot of the knowledge that they can implement to have a better running and more successful business, but they don't do it because deep down they don't think they're worth it. So let's talk about why charging more is not only going to make your life better, not only going to make your business better, but it's also going to be better for your clients that you book, which I love spinning it this way because I think it takes away the guilt that people have and the feeling of greediness and stuff like that. So charging more helps you serve your clients better, period. And when you're charging higher prices, and this is like 5K and up in my mind, because that's when you truly start profiting in your business. So if you are charging $5,000 and up, as an elopement photographer, you're going to attract couples who value photography, which is huge because I think a lot of photographers think they have to convince people to value photography, but there's already people out there who value it and are looking for an amazing photographer who charges a lot. Like they're looking for that specifically. And when they book you, they're going to trust your expertise. They're going to trust your process. They're going to respect your time and respect your boundaries. And they're not going to micromanage and question you every step of the way. So that's automatically better for you and your mental health. But here's how you can better show up for your clients by booking these kinds of people at higher price points too. So let's say your laptop dies and you have a lot of things to edit.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. If you're struggling to make money, you can't just go out and replace it. It's like this whole stressful ordeal. You have deadlines, you have clients waiting for their sneak peeks or something like that. But when I started charging more and my laptop died, I just bought a new one. No big deal. And I just went on with my workflow like normal. And it wasn't this big crisis where I had to like post on Instagram like, oh my God, my laptop died. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not going to be able to get back to emails and editing for a while. Nobody knew. It just got replaced.
Small little hiccup that
Yeah.
just part of running a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm able to buy extra hard drives and SD cards and backup gear and lenses without stress. Like I never delete anything on a hard drive. I just keep buying new ones every 6 to 12 months, depending on how busy I am. And having tons of SD cards, especially with gifts nowadays, you need like the big ones with lots of megabytes on there, buying new lenses that are going to help your workflow, like the day of when you're shooting. That's all important stuff. You need to be able to afford those things and not to stress about them and not, to be deleting photos off hard drives because you ran out of space and you can't afford to get a new one or something like that. Like you want to just be able to get plenty of these things. It's going to help your client experience, but mostly you can take care of yourself. If you are burnt out, but also broke, but also overbooked, which I see so many photographers living that life, you're not getting enough sleep. You're not drinking enough water. You're not traveling in early to location scout for days because you can't afford the hotel rooms. You're not showing up excited and creative the day of an elopement. You're showing up dehydrated, exhausted, worried about your bills, worried about your editing queue, worried about the elopement or something that you have to shoot the next day because you're just taking as much work as you can to make ends meet. Yeah, some couples don't want that in their photographer. Many couples actually want a photographer who's going to show up and isn't stressed out, doesn't have an elopement the next day or a portrait session or whatever, showed up early to do all the scouting, is like filled with creative energy, is super excited and happy. And that's what you get when you're making more money. You get to show up as the best version of yourself because you're not overbooked and broke and burnt out.
And that's what your couples deserve, right? They have one elopement day. And so, yeah, they want and they deserve the best version of you to show up. And I think they're willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
Right? The ideal clients that we want that value this stuff will pay you more so you aren't showing up burnout and tired and not ready to be the best photographer and guide that you can be.
Yeah. The couples may not be explicitly being like, I want my photographer hydrated and stuff like that, but they know. I mean, that third couple on a triple header wedding weekend, I always feel so bad for them, because they're getting a photographer who has already used up all of their energy on 2 previous wedding days. And now it's their wedding and like they're getting the
sloppy thirds.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel bad. And like, we don't take more than 1 elopement a week now because I just want to give my full attention to my couples that week. And we tell our couples on the phone calls about that we're flexible, that we're going to be showing up early, that we're going to go out to drinks with them the night before. If the weather is shit, we can always do it the next day. Like, they pay extra for all that stuff. So really, charging more doesn't make you greedy. It makes you professional. It makes you the best version of yourself. It's how you're going to protect your energy and your gear and your creativity and your longevity in this industry. And you have to make the conscious decision to pursue this, to charge more, take on less, and give your couples this experience. You have to choose it. It's not something that someday one couple is going to be like, you should be charging more. Can we pay you more? Like, no. You're always going to get people who say you're out of my budget, even if you charged $500. So you really have to consciously reframe everything. So here's some tips for reframing your mindset. And one of the best ways to reframe your mindset is to look for examples that what you want to do exists, So instead of saying no one will pay that kind of price, you can say, hey, there are couples actively looking for someone exactly like me to shoot their elopement. And there's examples everywhere of couples paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for elopement photography. There's tons of them out there.
And not just in glamorous, exotic places. Like, people all over the country have lots of money to spend. Like Arkansas, South Dakota, any state, Canada. Like, people have money.
Yeah.
And they'll spend it.
This is their wedding day. And their parents maybe have a whole wedding fund that's like tens of thousands of dollars. And now this couple's deciding to elope. And it's like, dang, this is going to be so cheap in comparison. Like, this is like, they might see $8,000 for photography and planning as an amazing deal, and like, not that they are going after the deal alone. But in comparison, it's like, I would much rather invest my money into an $8,000 photographer than a buffet for 150 people. So instead of saying it's greedy to want more money, try saying money allows me to serve my clients better, to stress less, and to support others. And there are examples of that everywhere. That's something that you can absolutely achieve.
Another reframing thing for maybe more advanced photographers is maybe second guessing after you've booked a client of like, am I a $5,000 elopement photographer? And the answer to that is yes. If someone's booked you for that, you are that. The market has told you that someone will pay you $5,000 to photograph their elopement.
Yeah. And instead of saying, I feel bad charging that much, try thinking the best thing I can do for my clients is to be the best version of myself so I can give them my best. So think back. Are you showing up on your couple's elopement days as stressed, tired, going through the motions, putting a smile on your face even though maybe you want to cry? exhausted? Or are you showing up like, yes, let's do this. I can't wait. I'm so pumped. I'm stoked. I have nothing else going on. Like, I've been looking forward to this. I'm just so excited to be here. Like, there's just a different energy about it. And then here are some affirmations that you can say out loud or write them down. And I have totally used these affirmations before. I used to have a really bad money mindset. I used to think I'd never be able to retire, that I was going to have to marry some rich guy if I wanted to live the life I wanted to live. And a lot of it was because of my student loans being a huge financial burden to me. But I created all these stories. But then once I started using affirmations, especially before I got on a consultation call with a couple, it really, really helped me. So I would say things like, my dream couples are excited to pay me, and that charging more allows me to serve my couples better. My work is valuable and I'm worthy of abundance, and that money flows easily to me and all the time. Because really, money is this is another thing that helped change my mindset. Money is a renewable resource. There's always more of it around. And the more I have practiced giving money away, like I just went on a trip to Mexico with my best friend and my mom, and I paid for the Airbnb and plane tickets. Like, I paid for a lot of stuff. And then my mom paid for our meals while we were there. But once you start kind of spending money and realize it always comes back, it becomes a lot less scary. And you will start feeling like, yeah, money flows freely and easily to me.
And that may sound woo-woo. And when I first heard it the first time, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so woo-woo. Like, I can't get behind
I'm a science guy. I'm an engineer.
I need data. Money is not energy. Money is like a tangible thing.
Money is something to be optimized.
Exactly. But it's not going to be, oh, I listen to this podcast and boom, all my money issues are solved, or all of my money mindset issues are now cured. It is a process, and like, it may take you months or multiple podcasts or reading different books and hearing this from a bunch of different voices or different explanations of it, but you'll get there. And it took like, come on.
You're still getting there.
I'm still getting there, and I still think like, God, this is woo-wooey. And am I woo-wooey? Not that woo-wooey, but I'm like getting more that way. The more I think about it, and probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, if it makes your life easier and more fulfilling to feel and think a certain way when so many things are just stories anyway, then like, believe in the woo-woo stuff. And, I used to be an emergency veterinarian. I have a bachelor's degree in integrative biology. I was the science girly. And I'm like, I'm not believing any of this spiritual woo-woo stuff. But once I've gotten into it, it changed my life. 100% changed my life. And just like what Todd was saying, this is a practice. And it's not something where you're just like, okay, I'm going to start thinking differently about money today and all my money problems will be solved. It's a constant practice, and you'll feel yourself slipping back into old beliefs, and you have to consciously bring yourself out of it until at some point your brain will like kind of rewire itself. That's where it gets kind of sciencey.
Yeah.
The neuroplasticity of our brains, they rewire themselves. And then these thoughts just become subconscious beliefs that you don't have to like say out loud anymore. It just becomes like a part of you. And it's way more fun to live life this way, to believe in abundance and that money is renewable and money is energy and that you deserve it and that it's not bad and you're not greedy. Because none of you listening to this podcast are bad people. None of you are greedy. You're all amazing people, right? Like, the community I have of elopement photographers are the best people. They are my safe space. I love them. I love all of you listening. You're all good people. And if you had money, you'd just be a better version of you. It's not going to turn you bad or anything. So yeah, definitely practice some affirmations, practice rewiring your brain. And as you increase your prices, you might fall back into feeling like, oh, am I really worth 4,000? Am I worth 5,000? Am I worth 6,000? And so you're going to constantly over the course of your life have to practice this stuff. And I still do. I slip back every once in a while. I mean, Todd, you've seen some of my freakouts about money. I'll go from one day being like, oh my God, everything is awful. We're going to go broke, to the next day where it's like, oh no, it's all fine. Money's coming. It's fine. It's like crazy.
Yeah. I think that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Any tax bracket you live in, like there's good days and bad days. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So if you feel like you've been stuck in a cycle of burnout, undercharging, over delivering, overbooking yourself, or if you're even just like at the beginning of all of this and you're like, I don't even have anything booked to have money mindset issues to worry about, it's still worth practicing. The book that really started changing my life that I make all of my coaching students read is How to Be a Badass at Making Money. It goes so much more in depth than what I can cover on a podcast. Read it multiple times throughout your life. Every time I read it or we listen to it as like an audiobook in the car if we're driving, it will hit you in a different way. It'll hit you in a different way as far as like the different life stages you're in. So yeah, you deserve to be well paid. You're doing work that truly changes people's lives. An amazing elopement day is life-changing, and you deserve to be rested and hydrated and excited and creative. So raise those rates, practice your limiting beliefs about money, identify what they are, and yeah, you're worth it. Talk to you next week. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Stoked. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring elopement photography content, check us out on Instagram at Megan McPhail. And if you'd like to hear more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you hit six figures as an elopement photographer, then check out my website at www.meganmcphail.com.